Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 4 of the Whatever, Whenever podcast. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. I am here with you for the 4th edition of the podcast. Hope you all are doing well. Got a lot of various things to get into here for you tonight on the show. We're going to be getting into all of our usual segments we have for you here on this show. The MMA corner, lots to talk about there. We'll also have, I've got a few little different things for you here tonight, actually. The same categories, but kind of some different kind of curveballs in some of the different categories here tonight. So we'll get into MMA corner, then we'll talk about my movie of the week selection. Actually, this week it's movies of the week selection. I'll let you know why that is. We'll talk about that. I'll get into, I'll have a comedy section for you here tonight. And also as well, closing out the show, my album of the week selection. Each week, I will select a different vinyl record. Also, always want to make that clear. We'll be talking only vinyl, just like when I gave you my picks for the top albums of 2019. I was strictly talking vinyl records, not any other format. So this week, got another great album of the week selection out of my personal collection for you. So we'll be getting into that. So again, thank you very much for being here with me for the show. As you know, this is a new show, new podcast. This is only episode 4. And so it's going to take some time for us to be able to, grow the listenership. Get some, try and eventually get some sponsors on. If you do want to sponsor the show and you've got a product you think would, be a good match, you've got something you want to promote, we can do all kinds of sponsorships here on the show. So if you're a collectible toy company, if you're anything, a record store, you can shoot me an email. The email address for this show is the whatever, whenever pod. I believe that's what it is. It's such a new email address. I don't think I have it memorized. I believe it's whatever pod at gmail.com. Yes, that's it. I mean, I was right. Second guess myself. Whatever, whenever pod at gmail.com. So if you want to book somebody on the show as a guest, and I want to make clear, I'm only looking to book, well-known people on the show. I don't want to have, if I'm going to interview somebody, it's got to be somebody big, somebody well-known. I'm not interested in doing interviews with just, people that nobody really knows. And if you'd like to be, excuse me, I'm doing kind of a congestion head nose thing today, so I apologize if I'm a little sound kind of liquidy or congested. I apologize, but I'm fine. Don't worry. I just got some kind of weird little one of those seasonal congestion things when it goes from like cold to hot. You know how it is. So if you'd like to, if you've got a company, a product, anything like that, you'd like to be a sponsor of the show, shoot me an email, wheneverpod at gmail.com. Also looking for guests and whatnot. And also want to let you know that we have a fundraiser going on for the show. Since it's such a new show, we've got things that we need to have a budget to spend on to grow the show, to get it out there to more people. And so we've got a fundraiser for the show. It's our very first one. It's the Whatever Whenever podcast kickoff campaign. You can find that linked over on our Whatever Whenever podcast Facebook page. If you're not one of our friends, you haven't liked us over there on Facebook, please go do that. I'll be posting all kinds of stuff over there. That's, again, one of the more things I'm more excited about. I haven't posted very much over there quite yet, but posted a few Rush videos and, of course, stuff pertaining to the show. But I'm going to be posting all kinds of stuff over there. Stand-up comedy clips I like, music clips I like, songs I like, clips from movies I like. And, just to be able to do that, I got to tell you, coming from the other type of show that I do, it's very refreshing, feels very freeing to be able to post a video that I like, post about a music video or a stand-up comedy piece or something, or something from a movie, and it doesn't have to be related to, anything. I don't know. I guess it's hard for me to describe. I guess I've kind of been in this self-imposed state of only being able to talk about one area of things for so long. And I've become so used to that. And now that I'm free to and have another platform where I can talk about whatever I want to talk about and don't have to worry about it clashing with other topics, it almost feels strange. You know what I mean? It's weird. It's like somebody getting out of prison and they don't know how to reacclimate to society. It kind of feels like that in a way for me. Like I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't post that, because people just want the info stuff. So I don't know. I'm enjoying that. But my point is, we've got this whatever podcast. It's a kickoff campaign, $500 our goal. It's not much. But your support will enable us to grow the show, and it'll enable me to do things like get a custom made intro that I want to get made. I don't want to tell you who's doing it yet, but I've got a badass celebrity, not a movie star or a rock star or anybody like that, but somebody who is in their particular field that they do, they're they're a superstar in their own right in their particular field, but it's not anybody like, it's not a movie star or a TV star or a celebrity like that, but they are a well-known person. Anyway, I'm going to get this person to do a custom made intro for our show. It's going to be phenomenal. It's only $100. So, the first $100 we get, we can do that. And also be able to enable us to have a little bit of a budget here, so I can do things like go out and cover events, to come back and have to talk to you on the show and do stuff, live podcast or pre-recorded stuff that I can do at events. We've got a little portable recorder, so I want to be able to go out to whether it be a comedy show or a concert or something, and I can go and even be able to get, pictures, photos, audio, stuff like this, and then make that content available to the people that contribute to what we're trying to do here every month. So, and I do have a little bit of that so far. We'll talk about more in the show later. So, want to help us grow, want to help us be able to do more, get the custom intro made. Also going to have an outro, music. All that stuff's coming. We're still growing, so please help us grow and help us get this thing off the ground. Your support is greatly needed. This show won't ever be behind a paywall or anything else like that, but you can't monetize your stuff on YouTube, and you should get 1,000 until you have 1,000 subscribers to your page, and your videos have so many views and stuff like that. So that's why it's vitally important that during this period that, who knows how long that could take. So right now we're basically operating at zero for this show, and whatever help and support, like I said, it's always going to be a free podcast. So please contribute. That'll help us grow right out of the gates. And everybody that contributes $100, this kickoff campaign runs until February 2nd. Everybody that contributes $100 of our $500 total goal. If it goes over that, hey, that's great too. But everybody that contributes $100 will have, after the fundraiser ends on the 2nd, the following show that I do that week, I'll announce all the $100 contributors, and I'll announce everybody's names as founding members of the Whatever Whenever family. So you guys will all get, I'll make a little list. I'll get everybody's emails, and then everybody that contributes that will get exclusive content and stuff that I go out and get and attend. And then we'll have other stuff like that that's available too. So help us grow, help us get off the ground here, and very much appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support and your listenership. Thank you. Let's start out, of course, this episode tonight with MMA Corner. Obviously, I'm going to be giving you my take talking about UFC 246. I got to say, I don't know. Maybe it's because 245 was so fucking good. Maybe one of the best there's ever been. I'd say at least within the top 3, top 5 UFC's ever was UFC 245. So maybe it was that. I don't know. Maybe I had higher hopes. It's been such a long. It's been a few weeks. I was kind of going through withdrawals for the fights. This to me was a great card on paper. Not so much in execution. And again, that's one of the crazy, interesting things about this sport. It really is. It really is what makes it interesting because you just can never tell. Some cards, they look great on paper. Execution, not so much. You watch them like, it seems like it's going to be a good fight. Not so much. And then there's other fights, which I think, and I'll talk about that. We'll get to that. But I think the fight night coming up this weekend could be one of those cards. It could be one of those sleeper cards. In a good way. There's sleeper cards in a bad way. And I got to admit, UFC 246 for me was a sleeper card, not in the good way. I don't know. I just expected way more out of this. There was a lot of... we had a few fights that just didn't even flat happen. You had one on the main card and one on the preliminary card. So you had a total of 2 fights that didn't even happen. Let's just go from the top there. Chaz Skelly versus Grant Dawson, that was canceled. Presumably due to Grant Dawson's ongoing USADA issues. He had gotten flagged a while back for the M3 metabolite. This was the banned substance that also John Jones was flagged for. And apparently there was something to do with the Nevada State Athletic Commission wouldn't clear him last minute or something for this fight. They never really, he said it was personal issues, but everybody knows he's had this ongoing unresolved issue with USADA over the M3 metabolites. So we've got to assume that's what that was about. So that was one on the undercard. That didn't happen. I didn't like how they... I don't know. I just didn't like how they moved some of this stuff around. I think they should have put the Rock, because I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Right now, we're going through the preliminary card, then we're going to get into the main card. So the Chaz Skelly Grant Dawson fight was on the preliminary card, and that was the one that got canceled. But there was also a big, and we'll get to that. There was also a big drop, a fight that didn't happen. And one that I was really looking forward to that I talked about on the show on the main card, the Claudia Gadelha and Alexa Grasso fight. And I'll talk about that more. But I would have, I don't know why they did it this way. Instead of, I would have moved the Roxanne Modafferi Macy Barber fight up to the first fight on the main card. Instead of moving whatever, I don't remember what fight it was. I moved one of the other fights up to the main card. I think they should have moved the Andre Fili and Super Sadiq Youssef fight up to the main event of the prelim card and moved the Roxanne Modafferi Macy Barber card to the bottom of the main card. But, my name's not Dana White, so I don't get to make that kind of decision. But I just thought that was a silly way. It would have been a much better fight, I think, sequencing-wise, if they would have done it that way. But there was a lot. This was just not a very interesting card. The whole either the preliminary card or the main card to me. All the fights, it was pretty boring. I got to be honest with you. They're not pretty much everything was. I think virtually everything was either a decision or an on the ground submission. Not very exciting. But let's go through it. First up on the preliminary card, you had Drew Dober versus Nasrat. What was his name? Haqparast, yeah. Nasrat Haqparast. I'd never seen Drew Dober fight before, and he came out strong and won the fight, but I'd never seen Drew Dober fight. I don't know, man. Listen, not that this matters. I'm not saying this in any kind of a homophobic way, but Drew Dober seemed a little fruity to me. And I've actually been told that by somebody in the know, somebody that actually lives in Las Vegas and knows people that work within the UFC. I've heard there's a lot of that, actually. There's a lot of, because there's certainly, we talked about, there's a lot on the women's side, but I heard there's a lot of gay stuff going on the men's side of stuff in the UFC too. A lot of big name people that would be surprised to find out. But he came out, this Drew Dober guy came out to, his walkout music was, who sang that? This Is How We Do It from the 90s. This is how we do it. Compton does it like nobody does. He came out and he came kind of like dancing out to that. And I was like, this he just seemed kind of fruity, which again, I love to say that in a negative way, just statement of fact. The guy you just don't see cage fighters, Let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about here. It gets lost sometimes. We're talking about a motherfucking cage fight. It's just weird. When you see somebody coming out kind of fruity to a cage fight, you're like, what's going on here? And I didn't think much of it. He just was kind of, you could tell by his mannerisms, he was singing along to the song, moving his head. He just kind of seemed kind of a little bit fruity, a little on the fruity side. So the fight happens, he wins, and of course, at the end of the fight, Joe Rogan comes in and does the interview, the post-fight interview. And the first thing he says before Joe can even get a question out of his mouth is, "Oh, you look nice." Just like that. Kind of fruity, too. He to Joe, like he was hitting on Rogan, dude. I was, wait a second. Maybe I was, at first I was like, okay, maybe I'm seeing things or I'm reading into this. And he came out to This Is How We Do It. It was acting all kind of fruity. And then the first thing he says, you just won a cage fight, dude. You just hit somebody in the face and won a cage fight. And the first thing out of your mouth is to Joe Rogan, "Ooh, you look nice." You could tell Joe Rogan was like, he was like, "Thank you." And then right to it. Anyway, I don't know. I just thought it was funny. I don't care if these people are gay or lesbian or whatever. I'm there to see a fight. I don't give a fuck about any other shit. But my point is, the only reason I bring it up is because I was like, I thought maybe I was being judgmental at first. You know what I mean? Listen, I watch a lot of fights, dude. And the walkout music to me is very important. You can tell a lot about somebody from their walkout music. We'll talk more about that later in this roundup today here, in this about all this stuff. But you really can. You could tell. I've been able to start. I didn't used to pay attention. I pay close attention now to what their fighters' walkout music. Usually, there's articles that come out. If you go look, you can find out for each card what all the walkout music was for each card for each person. And so I thought maybe I was reading a little bit into it. I was like, this guy's a little fruity, isn't he? This is how we do it, dancing around and singing to it. This is just not the normal behavior of somebody who's about to walk into a fucking cage and fight another person. Hand-to-hand combat. You know what I mean? And then the first thing he's doing is saying Joe Rogan looks nice. "Ooh, you look nice." Like, wait a second here. There's definitely some fruit balls going on here. The fuck? But hey, he won. More power to him. Congratulations, Drew Dober. Be fruity all you want, bro. As long as you get that W, who cares? The next fight was Tim Elliott versus Askar Askarov. Woo. This is an interesting fight. Tim Elliott's girlfriend is also a UFC fighter. She was there in the audience, and it kind of seemed like, I don't know, she had some other chicks, big titty chicks with her, kept cutting to them in the audience. It was weird. I've never seen somebody. Tim Elliott was basically chasing Askar Askarov around the octagon, and if you don't know anything about fighting, forward motion is what you want. Somehow, Tim Elliott was running Askar Askarov around the ring backwards, right? Running him backwards. He's running him back. And Askarov is in the reverse, still hitting Tim Elliott. It was a damn thing. You never see somebody that's moving back land strikes on the guy that's pushing them back. And it's just weird. Normally they just, plant their feet and then move forward. This guy was just allowing himself to be run back and still being run backwards. He was landing strikes. And that's when I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be interesting. But he was, Tim Elliott, it seemed like I don't know, man. It seemed like he was kind of trying to put on a show because his girlfriend was out in the audience and she had, like I said, some other big titty women with her. And, they had it hanging out. Listen, if it's all put up, I won't mention the big titties, but I only bring up the fact they had big titties because they were wearing, they were, bam! They were there. They knew they were going to be on TV. They knew they were doing, but it just kind of seemed like Tim Elliott was kind of trying to put on, and he was getting hit in the face hard. And he was smiling at Askarov and waving him on and taunting him. He taunted this guy, which is, listen, that's fine as long as you can bet. It's okay. You're going to taunt somebody, taunt them and knock the shit out of them. But what good is taunting if you're taunting somebody around the room and you're getting your ass kicked? It doesn't make any sense. So there was just too much taunting, I thought, going on. And, Askarov took him down. Took him out. Embarrassed him in front of his fighter girlfriend and all her hot friends. Ooh, that's rough. But I don't know. I think he underestimated Askarov. Listen, those guys fighting from the Eastern Bloc out of Russia and Kazakhstan. I think Kazakhstan is where Askarov was from. Listen, man, those guys, motherfucker, dude. Those guys are dominators. There's something about those guys. Khabib Nurmagomedov, Valentina Shevchenko, Peter Yan, another great up-and-comer who those guys. You've probably seen the footage of Khabib, right? Khabib Nurmagomedov, of him wrestling bears when he's like a kid. There's like footage of it. He trained wrestling bears. It's insane. They're murderers, man. They're murderers. I was just sitting there going, man, this is not smart. Those Eastern Bloc motherfuckers, you don't want to just taunt them the whole time. So next fight on the card was Andre Fili versus Super Sadiq Youssef. This is the second time I've seen Sadiq Youssef fight. And I have to say, I think this guy's a future superstar. I really do. I think he's going to be up there with the John Joneses and the Israel Adesanyas, and I think he's an up-and-comer. I think he's putting it all together. I think he's getting better. I think the last time I saw him fight was just a few months ago. And oftentimes guys, you want to, every fighter wants to be as rounded as possible, but, not every fighter can be great at every discipline within martial arts or, every type of thing that you're going to need. But this guy, I got to say, man, Sadiq Youssef, the guy has made such improvements just since the last time I saw him fight, particularly in his ground game, which he showed in this fight versus Andre Fili. The improvements to his jiu-jitsu game in just a small amount of time since his last fight was unbelievable. Probably, I can't say for sure, but I have to say probably one of the quicker, if not the quickest, advances that we've seen in the UFC. He's improved so much. He went from basically having no ground game at all to being as proficient as, anybody in the game in the span of a few months. I thought this was the best fight of the undercard. If you didn't see the undercard, the prelims for UFC 246, you can go find it on, if you're proficient in using BitTorrent and that kind of thing, you can go find the prelims. or just go try to find the Andre Fili Sadiq Youssef fight. That should have been, to me, as I was saying earlier, they should have moved that up when you had the Chris Skelly and Grant Dawson drop out fight when the fight got canceled. They should have moved the Modafferi Barber fight up to the main card, the bottom of the main card, since after the Gadella and Grasso fight got canceled as well. The Andre Fili Sadiq Youssef fight, I believe, should have been the top of the prelim card. I thought it was the best, by far the best fight of the prelims, and one of the best fights of the night as well, I thought. And Super Sadiq Youssef came out victorious in that fight. Again, I think this guy is going to be, he's one to watch. Put him on your watch list. I think in another year or so, maybe he's going to be, next 2 years, he'll definitely be one of the top 5 fighters, I think, in the game. He's coming up, and just how quickly he's making adjustments and making improvements and becoming dangerous on all levels is something. I think he's definitely high on my list. And somebody else, I talked about this fight. It's interesting, man. As I said, one of the interesting things about this sport is that you never know. You never know what's going to happen week to week. You can look at it on paper and you might say, oh, this person here, I think this person's definitely going to win. And then the other person, you laugh, but comes out with some different walkout music that week. It's a little bit more pumped up than normal, and boom! There goes the odds makers. There goes everything. You just, it's an unpredictable sport, and that's what I like about it. But I also talked about in episode number 2, obviously, the last episode was the 2-part, episode 3 was the 2-part Rush tribute that I did. But when I did my UFC 246 preview in episode number 2, I talked about the big thing about MMA and respect. And I talked about the Roxanne Modafferi Macy Barber fight that was coming up the top of the prelim card for 246. And I talked about, listen, I just don't, I said, and I even said on the show, I don't like Macy Barber. And it's funny how many of the things that I talked about in that show about Macy Barber, if you go back and listen, I was even shocked to see that all the things I said about her in that episode, I got justified for at UFC 246. Unbelievable. I mean, she proved my point on everything. Everything got proven. And, I said, look, that can be your undoing. People don't get that. There's so many people, man, they don't, it doesn't matter how good you are. You're not showing respect for the other fighters, and you're talking about how, listen, I mean, you can tell a lot about somebody too by their nickname. They have a nickname, you can tell the walkout music and their nickname, you can tell a lot about people by that. And she calls herself the Future. Macy, the Future Barber, the Future. You got to prove that, And Roxanne Modafferi, interesting story with her because she quit for many years. She was a UFC fighter and she quit, and then she came back. She came into the UFC through the Ultimate Fighter show. And, she's been there for a long time, and a lot of people have kind of considered her just, cannon fodder, not really considered her a real contender, just somebody for other fighters to get through. And she tore Macy Barber the fuck up. I was so fucking happy. And not just tore her up, exposed all the things that I was saying. I had no idea that she was being coached by Ben Askren. Well, that says it all right there. If I would have known that, I had no idea. Macy Barber, she's being coached by Ben Askren, another loser that had to fucking leave. He had to fucking quit. I mean, don't get me wrong. Ben Askren was a fucking Olympic gold. You know, he was an Olympic fucking wrestler, Greco-Roman wrestler. I get it, but that doesn't always translate to the UFC. And he talked so much mad shit, and then got dealt with by Street Jesus, Jorge Masvidal. And it was funny at the end of that fight when he knocked him out with the fastest knockout in UFC history. At the end of the post-fight interview with Rogan, the last thing he says on the microphone as Joe's walking away is, "Hey, you guys are welcome for me ending that guy." Everybody was like, "What?" Well, because in the very next fight, he didn't take very long. Askren didn't take very long, a couple of months. Fought, lost again, lost 2 in a row, and retired, which he later said was because of a hip injury that he never mentioned previously as having. Now, a lot of people do this. A lot of people do this with injuries, especially if they injure them in between when the fight is made and when it happens. And, you know, there's so much money that goes into it. They'd rather not tell anybody about it, go in, risk it, have it get hurt, and then they can just blame it on getting hurt in the fight, which is clearly what Ben Askren did. Because he fought Masvidal, didn't say shit about his hip, was talking shit the whole time. He fought Robbie Lawler before that. The Robbie Lawler match was one of those weird things where they said he tapped, then they said he didn't tap, but they ended up giving Askren the win anyway. A lot of people were very, pissed off about that match. And then he fought Askren, got starched, and then lost again and retired. But after he retired, he said, "Oh, I've got this hip injury, and I've got to have a hip replacement and all this stuff." But he never said anything about that before, but then he indicated he'd been around for a while. Well, I think he gave this same advice to Macy Barber because right at the beginning of round 2, Roxanne Modafferi took a jab, hit her with a jab, just right at the beginning of round 2. I mean, round 2 had just started. And you could see her, she loses her balance and she grabs her left knee. Now, what's interesting is that I've never seen somebody this was in the head. If somebody hits you in the head, hitting somebody in the head is not going to tear your ACL. Not at all. But you see her clearly reach for her left knee. Like, her knee was pretty much done. And then later on in the fight, they brought a doctor in. Everybody was freaking out. Joe Rogan, everybody was freaking out. They brought a doctor in to look at her knee. That's unprecedented. They don't do that. That never happens. They were saying, is this, she getting special treatment because she's a female? Maybe so. But what I believe that her knee problem was a pre-existing thing. I think she fucked it up in training camp. They kept it quiet. Askren said, "Hey, he's her coach. Hey, do what I did. Just don't tell anybody you have it. If you get fucked up while you're in there, everybody will think it was happened as a result of the fight, and therefore, because she's still coming up, she didn't have all that money yet. Because see, the UFC, the way the insurance works with UFC is if you're injured during a fight, they'll pay whatever. If any injury, it doesn't matter if you got to have facial reconstructive surgery, plastic surgery. You get your fucking half your mouth taken off like fucking old boy did not too long ago. And it doesn't matter. But if you get injured in training camp before a fight and then you can't fight, well, that's on you. So, and I think that Askren knew that. That's why he didn't say anything before the Masvidal fight, nothing before the Lawler fight about a hip. Then he gets, basically loses. It was 2 in a row officially, but probably should have been 3 in a row. He loses. Then he retires because, the standing rule in the UFC is if you lose 3 fights in a row, you're out, you get cut. But they seem to only use this rule selectively. We'll talk more about that later in the show. So I think she already had this knee fucked up. There was nothing. Later, her dad said, "Oh, it was at the beginning of the fight. She stepped on Roxanne's foot, and that's what did it to her knee." And then everybody went back and watched the footage and went, "Dude, where the fuck are you talking about? That never happened." And then there was an interview with Roxanne Modafferi where they asked her about that. And she said, "No, that didn't happen. No, she didn't step on my foot or anything and mess up her knee at the beginning. No, absolutely not. That did not happen." So I think 100% she already had this knee problem. And then, oh, dude. And then Roxanne got her on the ground and opened up her head with an elbow. Oh, Jesus Christ. I have not seen somebody bleed all over the octagon like that in a long time. Even like the Diaz brothers, who are notorious for fucking bleeding out. You know, you got to do is tap. I love the Diaz brothers, but goddamn, their faces are so fucking scarred up from fighting for so many years. They got, you know, there's stuff that's easy to open up on them. You know, like you saw when Nate fought Jorge Masvidal. He opened him up quick, and you know, she's only 21 years old. Macy Barber's only 21 years old. She doesn't have those kind of, dude. She does now. Whoo! She bled like a fucking stuck pig, dude. I've not seen somebody bleed that much. She fucked her up, but of course, Roxanne Modafferi. Congratulations, Roxanne Modafferi. Her, you know what her nickname is? The Happy Warrior. Isn't that hilarious? How can I root against anybody whose nickname is the Happy Warrior? I mean, it's better than Macy, the Future Barber. You know, I was talking about that. You know, the nickname thing, and also the walkout music thing. Here's what's interesting: Macy Barber. This. Again, going back to what I talked about on episode 2 about her, the respect thing. Doesn't have any respect for other fighters. It's always fake. I'm the best. Joe Rogan even said during the broadcast, you know, when I met her the first time, you know, the very first thing she said to me was, "I'm going to be UFC champion." I mean, not hi, hello, fuck you, anything. Just, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Joe Rogan. I'm going to be UFC champion." That's what she said to him. And that's that kind of, you know, brainwashing stuff that coaches do, especially to young, impressionable, you know, younger athletes and stuff. I've seen it a million times. They get it in their mind that they're the best and they're better than everybody else. And then they start to believe it because they have to believe it to get their confidence up to be able to go and get in a fucking cage and fight someone hand to hand. Don't get it twisted, dude. No matter what I might think about any of these people, I have respect for all of them because they're all willing to do what 99% of the rest of us won't do, which is get into a fucking cage with another human being and fight. You know, not with those big padded boxing gloves and shit, but, you know, with basically pretty damn close to bare knuckle. But she, I mean, just that nickname, The Future. Come on. Are you still going to call yourself The Future when you're in your mid-30s? I mean, I don't know. But I started thinking about that Roxanne Modafferi nickname, the Happy Warrior. It made me think back to what I was talking about earlier with Drew Dober being fruity. I was like, wait a minute. At first, I just thought it was like, oh, the Happy Warrior, and then I realized, oh, wait a minute. I don't think that her nickname, the Happy Warrior. Again, not a slight on Roxanne Modafferi. She's fun. She seems to be just a really positive, high-spirited person, and she's a hell of a fighter. But like I said before, you know, a high percentage, probably 70, maybe 80% of the women that fight within the UFC are lesbians. Again, not a slight, just a fact. And so I started thinking about that. I was like, the Happy Warrior. It's like, how can I be mad at that? You know, she's a warrior, but she's happy. And I go, oh, wait a minute. I think she probably means that in the other, the other definition of what the term happy means. I can just imagine her having a conversation with Dana White in his office or something. And so what were we thinking as far as a nickname, Roxanne? Oh, I was thinking about going with the Gay Warrior. You could just see fucking. You just see Dana White's fucking bald head turning red like a fucking dog dick, just bright red. Okay, listen, we're all respectful of your sexual orientation, all that. None of us care here, of course, but you got to remember this is a cage fight. let's not forget what this is a cage fight. We can't have cage fighters going in having nicknames, male or female, the gay warrior. Why don't you call yourself the happy warrior? Because you're a happy, bubbly person, and it'll be an inside joke. Only we'll know. How about that? I'm sure. I bet you it probably went down something like that. But she won the fight. Anyway, before I get to that, going back to the walkout music thing, Macy Barber's walkout music was and is Amanda Nunes's walkout music. And I was like, what the fuck? And she's like, sing along with them. I'm like, no. That's Amanda Nunes's, the greatest to ever do it. Arguably the greatest female fighter of all time. And you're calling yourself the future and telling everybody you're going to be champion, and you fucking steal Amanda Nunes's walkout music. Did you think nobody was going to notice that? You couldn't get your own, pick your own thing? You had to steal the walkout music for the greatest fighter in the game? And I was just like, already, because I already don't like this chick. I already don't like what I've seen out of her, her attitude. She doesn't act grateful. She acts spoiled. She acts entitled. She's overly confident. Listen, you got to be confident. Again, you got to be confident, and sometimes overly confident to get inside of a fucking cage fight. I get it. But you can be confident in your abilities and confident in what you can do and also be respectful. And how do I know that? Because we've seen it 1,000 million fucking times in this sport. There are plenty of men and women walking around this sport right now that could kill you in a second, who would be lifting you up back off the ground and rubbing your head and checking to see if you're okay after they just knocked you the fuck out. Because they've got respect, because they know it doesn't matter if you beat them or they beat you, just to get in there. So, I didn't like that. Then, the stuff they get in there in the fight, they're in the ring, and and then the knee thing happens, and then they bring a doctor out. The doctor says, oh, she's got a partial torn ACL, but she'll be okay. And even Joe Rogan on there is going, what has he got? Is this guy a fucking human MRI machine? What the fuck? You could touch her knee and tell she's got a partially torn MRI? Well, alert the medical journals, because this guy obviously is a human freak of nature that we've never seen. We got this guy around. Even Paul Felder, who was he was also a UFC fighter, who was one of the announcers with Joe Rogan on that fight, said, shit, I'm calling this guy next time I get messed up. Just getting him to come over and touch my knee and tell me if what's wrong with it. So, again, the only reason that would have happened, that never happens, you will never see that happen in any other fight. The only reason that happened is because they had a pre-existing knowledge. They didn't share it with anybody. They didn't share it with the Nevada State Athletic Commission, who would have not licensed her to fight if they had known she had an existing knee injury. They would not have let that happen. So the UFC had their doctor guy over there. They told him, he came right in, even though she was saying, no, I'm fine. I mean, we've seen guys fucked up worse than that. Remember when Sugar Sean O'Malley kicked that guy and broke his fucking whole leg? Had to lay on the mat with Joe Rogan putting the fucking mic on him? First time you ever seen somebody get fucked up worse than maybe not the first time, but that pretty bad to have somebody have a broken leg and be laying on the ground writhing in pain and be the winner. So I think absolutely they knew about this ahead of time. Askren knew what to do in that situation because he did the same thing. And so now, and it turns out, yes, her knee is fucking toast. Macy Barber's knee is toast. She is going to be out at minimum 9 months, at minimum. You might not see her fight again until 2021. I'm sure she'll be back. I'm not going to say she's never going to fight again ever. but that's a hell of an injury. And people are going to be gunning for that left knee now that they know that's a problem for her. So, but here's the, and you know, like I said, I already didn't like her before this fight, and the things that she did in this fight solidified it for me, specifically the end after she lost, after the Happy Warrior, Roxanne Modafferi beat her. You know, when you win, that's your moment. And there are a lot of people, man, who take that moment seriously. That's what they spend the money to, you know, and fight in a cage for and don't get paid very much money. Well, unless you're fucking, yeah, well, unless you're the leprechaun. Then you get paid as much as everybody in the sport gets paid combined all year for fighting in one fight. I don't get that. But, you know, that's a lot of people, that's their moment. Well, there was one guy in particular that said, man, I've been fighting, trying to get to this moment. And one of the reasons I wanted to get to this moment was just so I could meet you, Joe Rogan. And so he smiled and shook his head. You know, a lot of people, you know, that's their moment. When you win, you know, you don't get it all the time. You get interviewed, you get to say what you want to say. That's your moment. Roxanne Modafferi fought hard. She's had a long career, and she fought hard for that moment. You know, that was her moment. And what does fucking Macy Barber do? She seals the fucking deal, and exactly what I was saying about her in episode 2. The lack of respect. She walks up there, bum knee and all, and basically boots Roxanne Modafferi out of the way. Joe Rogan was in shock. You could tell. He just handed her the microphone. She's like, can I say something? Can I say something? I noticed before that, whatever backwater, dark web, Russian fucking third-party bullshit stream I was watching this fight on, they didn't go to commercials. They were going to, the prelims had commercials, and then when they got to, the early prelims, there was like 2 fights in the early prelims. Those had commercials. They moved to a different stream, and then those didn't have commercials, and they were showing the in-between stuff for the fights that you don't really get to see. They still had the cameras rolling. And Macy Barber walked over to the ring announcer, Bruce Buffer, and asked Bruce Buffer if she could say something. And Bruce Buffer's like, I don't know. You got to ask Joe Rogan. So when they came back from the commercial break and they're, you know, declaring Modafferi the winner, Joe Rogan's about to say, I'm here with Roxanne Modafferi, and fucking Macy Barber walks up and says, I want to say something. You takes the mic from Joe Rogan. Wait a minute. You lost, bitch. The fuck out. No, you don't. Listen, if you lose, the only time they'll go to the loser, and they'll go to the loser second always, is if it's a main event on the main card and you got 2 big names, they'll go to the winner, then they'll go and they'll let the loser say something. But 99% of the time, if you lose the match, you're not talking on the mic. She goes up there and steals. That was enough, right? You would have thought that would have been enough. That was insult enough. You know, that's Roxanne Modafferi's moment. She earned that moment. She beat you. She's the winner. She gets to talk and say first. You don't get to come up as the loser and grab the mic out of Joe Rogan's hand and try to upstage her, but that's exactly what she did. And dig this. As if that wasn't enough, she drove it home even more for you, ladies and gentlemen, with what she said. I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. My jaw was on the ground. I was watching it live going, oh my God, I can't fucking believe she just said that. I could not believe it. And even I already knew was on to her with her disrespect. But this just took the absolute disrespect cake right here. Already grabbing the mic. This is what she said. She said, I want to apologize. I'm so sorry for losing here tonight. All the people that believed in me and came out to see me. I'm sorry that I didn't win, but I'm not sorry for my performance because my performance allowed Roxanne to shine. Thank you. The fuck you just say? Wait a minute. I know. I had to go back and listen to it again. I was like, I know that bitch did not just, number one, take the microphone from the winner out of Joe Rogan's hand and talk first when she shouldn't even be talking at all because she just lost. Brutally, by the way. Gushing fucking blood. Knee done. I know she did not just, in a roundabout cunty kind of way, she did though. But she did though. Oh my God, she did do that. She not only took the mic inappropriately, she in a roundabout way then said, well, I'm sorry that I didn't perform like you wanted me to, but I'm not sorry for my performance because my performance allowed Roxanne to shine. So thank you very much. Wait a minute, bitch. You can't lose and then credit your losing to allow someone who was clearly better than you to count that for their win. You have got to be kidding me. So the fact that this bitch got her fucking knee blown out and she's going to be out for at least 9 months, maybe out forever. You never know. That kind of injury, she may not come back from. A major ACL tear like that, I don't know. Can you believe that? I mean, you heard what I said in episode 2 about her. This is before any of this happened. I was already saying I didn't like her. She didn't have any respect. She's overly confident, cocky. That stuff just doesn't fly in MMA, dude. Maybe she needs to fucking rebrand herself, and that's what she needs to do. Her and Askren need to rebrand themselves and be like a tag team male-female fucking WWE duo, wrestling duo or something. Get them some new knees and some new hips and go. I mean, that shit talking like that, dude, you got to listen. You can talk shit, but you got to have respect too. I could not believe that. I was shocked. You lose, you grab the mic first, and then your comment, she was like faux being respectful at first. Like, oh, congratulations to Roxanne. And but I'm not going to apologize for my performance because my performance is what allowed Roxanne to shine. What? That's exactly what she said, word for word. My performance allowed Roxanne to shine. So because I sucked, and she was better than me and trained harder than me, wanted it more than me, was a better fighter than me, be glad I put on a shitty performance, because if I wouldn't have put on that shitty performance tonight, Roxanne would have been... I mean, what kind of psycho says something like that? I mean, that is literally psychotic. Man, I can't believe Joe Rogan did bitch slap her right there. God damn, I would have bitch slapped her on camera. Bitch, whoosh, put her in a rear naked choke. God damn. I could not believe that, dude. Can you imagine if somebody, bigger name fighter? Can you imagine if Cowboy, Cowboy got fucking, we'll get to that, but can you imagine Cowboy after he fought Conor saying, yeah, you guys are, Conor, you're welcome that I didn't even try to fight tonight and didn't even try to defend myself while you were beating me the fuck down. Because the fact that I didn't even try to defend myself and didn't even throw basically one strike or punch or anything, because I performed like shit, that allowed you to shine and you're the winner. So, I mean, can you imagine? The dude would be roasted until they would have roasted his ass out of the fucking UFC. I was shocked, dude. Shocked. But hey, listen, like I said, man, so shit talk, just like you saw what happened to MAGA Boy. He talked all that shit. He talked all that fucking shit, and what happened? He got fucking dealt with. And not only did he get dealt with, he got his fucking jaw broken. Oh, the irony. He got his jaw broken in the process, son, by the fucking Nigerian nightmare. Ben Askren talked all that shit to Jorge Masvidal. Insulted his fucking race and everything. The guy was just I mean, going in on him hard. What happened? Knocked out. 3 seconds. 3 seconds. Not to hit him with the knee and then hit him some more. Like 5 more times. Right in the fucking head. Squaw in the head. While he was already stiff as a board, flattened out. Flattened out like a cartoon, dude. Like when you see those like Bugs Bunny cartoons and they'll hit them and they'll fucking go stiff and fly and they're like digging to the ground and then the tombstone will come and it right where their fucking head is. It was like that. Motherfuckers like that, they get dealt with, dude. It's hey, listen, everybody likes a good showmanship and all the rest of that stuff, but there's plenty of these guys that, they can talk shit and they back it up, but it's not personal. They're still, they still respect the other person. They just shit. There's other people where it's just they don't respect anybody, and those people don't never last long. So I thought it was interesting that I said in episode number 2, I don't see. There's just so much hype behind her, behind Macy Barber. They've been pushing her so hard. She's arrogant. She's cocky. They need to her and fucking Ben Askren need to go back to fucking Wisconsin and start a wrestling promotion or something. Anyway, congrats to Roxanne Modafferi. And boy, talk about the polar opposite of her. I mean, I've seen the interview she's done after the fight and stuff. Smiling the whole time, positive, nothing negative to say. A very gracious winner. And, but I did hear her say also, though, that she felt disrespected by Macy Barber. And of course, and well, she should. That was disrespectful. I mean, shoe on the other foot. If Macy Barber would have won and Roxanne Modafferi would have walked up there and took the mic before and started saying stuff, they would have been all over her. I don't know. I just don't think they're making a big enough deal out of this. She ought to be fined or should be some sort of reprisal for that. But I guess they figure 9 months. 9 months not being able to minimum. That's who knows. I don't know how long it takes to. I hear it's faster now, but she's going to be out minimum 9 months. So you may not even see her fight again this year. So I guess maybe they think that's punishment enough. I don't know. Can't say I didn't enjoy that though. I enjoyed the hell out of that fight. That now brings us to the main card. The main card. Again, you had Claudia Gadelha, Alexa Grasso fight. That was canceled. Alexa Grasso missed weight by 5.5 pounds. This is what I was going to bring up earlier. Weight cutting is a big issue with women fighters. Women fighters have a much more difficult time making weight than male fighters. And, it's long been a contentious thing within the UFC, and a lot of people believe they should do away with weight cutting and all that stuff. It's a grueling thing if you don't know what that entails. Because there's a target weight, and within a couple of pounds, they'll let you be over or whatever. But she was 5.5 pounds over, so the the state athletic commission would not license the fight. So many women's fights get canceled, a whole lot of them, because of a lot of these women just can't make weight. And there's a lot of, argument over why that is. I can tell you 100%, I know exactly why that is. I know exactly why women fighters can't. Weight cutting is all dehydration. That's what it all is. And I've been around enough women in my life to know, okay? Girlfriends, roommates, everything else. I've lived and spent a whole lot of years around a whole lot of different women. And one thing I can tell you about all of them, even though they're all different, I can tell you one thing that's the same about every woman. Ain't a goddamn one of them that likes to be dehydrated. Not even in the slightest bit. Women can't, it's weird. Men seem to be able to tolerate it a lot more. In fact, we have to make ourselves drink water because we won't even know we'll be dehydrated until our piss starts turning fucking brown and black and orange and, fluorescent fucking colors. I'm like, oh yeah, fuck. Maybe I'll drink some fucking water today. Women, and that's what women just can't, they just can't be dehydrated. And that's what weight cutting is. It's all dehydration. You're drinking no water. They're doing everything they can to suck all the water out. Hot baths. Everything is about dehydration. Some coaches won't even let their fighters drink anything. Not even a sip of water for 24 hours before a fight. Not even a sip for 24 hours. Nothing. No water, no liquid, sometimes 48 hours. It's brutal. And I think that something needs to be, and I know, it's difficult. You've got a sport where you're trying to make it as equal as possibly can. Again, as I've said before, I do like the fact they don't make the women's fights be on some separate event or something. I like it that it's all, women's and men's fights are all mixed in together. But I think there's going to have to be something done. They're either going to have to do away with weight cutting. They're going to have to make the weight classes more flexible, make less weight classes. I don't know. Something's going to have to happen because women, it's a major problem. There are fights virtually every card, whether it be a fight night or a UFC numbered event. There are at least one female fight that gets canceled, and it's not fair. It's not fair for the other person who spent all that money for training camp. They spent all the money for all this it takes just to get there, and then the other person doesn't make weight, and then they have to suffer for that. Something's got to change, and then we get not as good of a card, whatever it might be. It's a major, major problem. Nobody seems to be wanting to address it. Nobody. I've never heard anybody else to this point bring up the whole thing. Women just don't like to be dehydrated. That's just all it is to it. And weight cutting is all dehydration. So, then next on the main card, Anthony Pettis versus Diego Ferreira. Again, most of these fights were just not that exciting. I had Pettis for the win on that, but he got submitted in round 2. And I think Anthony Showtime Pettis, listen, he had his day, but I don't know. I think it's time I think it's time he calls it a day. I think that's 2 in a row he's lost to. But who knows? I suspect Anthony Pettis will probably retire soon. I could be wrong. Brian Kelleher versus Ode Osborne. I had this was a tough one. I think I ended up going with Osborne on it, but only strictly because Kelleher didn't fight in 2019, not once. He was hurt throughout all of 2019. Didn't fight once. This was his first fight since 2018, so I didn't think he would. I really didn't think he was going to, but I was wrong. Well, he came out strong and got a submission in the first round. So, Brian Kelleher, congratulations on your win, sir. Congratulations on coming back from that injury. Yeah, even I didn't think you were going to win, and you did, so congrats. Maurice Green versus Alexei Olenek. Again, Maurice Green, again, he's a big old dude, but you can't underestimate those Eastern Bloc Russian motherfuckers. But earlier I was talking about the walkout music, and Alexei Olenek. Go back and listen. If you can download the fight, go back and watch it. Go back and listen to this creepy ass walkout music that Alexei Olenek has when he goes. It's some of the strangest shit I've ever heard. It's like this real deep voice, like this deep voice guy. Speaking in Russian, it's kind of not even singing. It's just like almost like chants. It sounded like that. It was weird. It was the creepiest fucking walkout music I've ever heard. It was some weird Russian shit. It sounded like the Russian version of Tom Waits. Tom Waits sings kind of like this. It was like that. But it was all in Russian. It was the creepiest, weirdest. It sounded like music that they would play before they took you and put you in front of a firing squad in some Russian fucking gulag somewhere. It was truly bizarre and creepy and weird. And I've got this theory that sometimes you can tell who the winner is going to be based on their walkout music. I don't know, the last UFC 245, I guess it was when Irene Aldana fight. And I've seen her fight, I've been watching her on the come up. But she came out to this fight to the song Army of Me from Bjork. And I heard that kick on. Then they cut to her and there was something in her eye. I was like, oh shit. I was like, she's about to come in here and fucking win. You'd see it. There was something different. You could tell that sometimes. It's weird. And going back to what I was saying about Macy Bar, I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. Just like I was saying about Macy Barber, though, as soon as I heard her coming out to, Amanda Nunes' walkout music, I went, wait a minute, this can't end well. I think that cursed her alone right there, much less her behavior, but Alexei Olenek coming out, I'm telling you, it was some of the weirdest shit I've ever heard. And I'm talking about up there, maybe even creepier than, have you ever heard the Aleister Crowley recordings of him like talking and shit on that they recorded? Super creepy. It's like creepier than that. It was just this weird low pitch Tom Waits in Russian sounding. It was just creepy. And he fucking won. I remember there was this fighter. It was like UFC Liverpool last year. I can't remember this guy's name. Jack something. And it was like his first fight in the UFC. And he came out to Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes, and his name was Jack. And I was like, this fucking guy's going to win. I could just tell. And he won. And that brings us to our next fight, Holly Holm versus Raquel Pennington. And same thing with this one. I mean, Holly Holm, I talked about. Holly Holm really needed this win. And she got it in a third round decision. Again, not a very exciting fight. Came down to a decision. But Holly Holm, Jesus Christ. She came out like she just did a bump of coke before she came out. And guess what her walkout music was? She came out to Rock and Roll by Led Zeppelin. And she came out ready to rock. Holy shit, I've never seen. She was fired the fuck up. I don't know how she wasn't worn out by the time they got to the fight. She was pacing around the fucking ring. She was amped beyond amped. I'm like, she's about to fucking win. She came out hot. I was like, she's coming out fucking hot, coming in hot to fucking Led Zeppelin Rock and Roll. She was pumped the fuck up. That shit got her going. Holly, I think that you learned a lesson there, and I think that all of your walkout music, for as long as you continue to fight, should always be Led Zeppelin 100% of the time. Holy shit. You could tell that was her shit, because it just gave her like an extra boost, like an extra pump up, dude, coming out that fucking, I mean, how can that, dude, that big, the bottom drums, and that fucking, how can you not be pumped up to that, especially if you have to fucking fight in a cage? But I think sometimes you can tell. When you hear a certain song, you see the way somebody's coming at, you're like, oh shit. Last time Stylebender fought Israel Adesanya, you see that shit? That was insane. He had his boys, like his two best friends, they were like a dance crew. They came out to like a fucking choreographed, like fucking dance move shit. Like in the tunnel. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. If you're going to come out and do that, though, you better fucking win. And that's when I saw that, I was like, oh, he's going to win. And sure enough, he's a beast. Israel Adesanya's a fucking beast. And then, of course, that brings us to the much talked about main event fight for UFC 246. Proving my point yet again why I refuse to pay for pay-per-view fights. Weeks, months of hype, 40-second main event. There was a lot of talk. I even briefly mentioned it in my preview for UFC 246. A lot of talk about, conspiracy theories surrounding Donald Cerrone, said to have been paid to take in a fall. This was said months before the fight took place. I even talked about last week or not last week, but on episode number 2, I even talked about why was McGregor going up to 170 for this fight. And, of course, now we know all the answers to those questions, which the main, I should have talked about this at the time, but really the main reason is because there's nobody for him to fight at 155 except murderers. They were trying to find an easy kill, an easy sacrifice. Listen, it happens all the time in the UFC. It's happened for years. It'll continue to happen. They sacrifice, big stars to bring other people up. So a lot of people were saying from the get-go, but I think 100%, that's it. Like, go look at 155. Stacked full of murderers. There was nobody in there. There were no easy kills in there that they could put McGregor up against for his comeback fight in the UFC at 155. Because it's stacked full of murderers. You got to go way down on the way bottom of the list to start getting into people that aren't murderers at 155. Cowboy, God bless him. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. Got more records than a record store as far as, UFC records. The guy is a fucking future Hall of Famer. There's no question about it. But let's be honest. He's way past his prime. This was an easy kill, an easy win, a sacrificial lamb they put up for McGregor so that they can make other fights later in the year, possibly him versus, who knows, maybe he'll fight Nate Diaz again for the third time. I'd be down for that. I still think he should have won the second time they fought. I thought McGregor got lucky and won that one, but the first time they fought, both those fights, those two fights that McGregor and Nate Diaz did are two of my favorite fights of all time. I can go and watch those right now. They're just I mean, did you what you want to talk about? Two guys just not giving a fuck and just trying to murder each other. Jesus Christ. But that's all this was. And, it had been hinted about, people talked about it, but there was just nobody else. They needed a sacrificial lamb. And they got it. I mean, those shoulder strikes, nobody would have expected that. This is not something you see done in that fashion all the time. Sure, shoulders, elbows, all that stuff are used regularly within fights, but for him to come at him in that way and break his nose, and then he didn't even fight back. He didn't even strike back. He didn't try to defend himself. He just cowered down, covered up. And of course, when you're watching it in real time that way, and the announcers are going, the crowd's cheering, you don't really see it that way. Clearly, this was, this was clearly an agreed upon thing. There's no way you'll ever convince me otherwise. This is just another way the only way they could get McGregor back into the conversation, back fighting again. And I don't think he deserves it. I think he should have been, way down at the bottom of the barrel again, but he gets to go right up to the top at 170 because he would have got starched. If they would have thrown him back in the 155 pool, he'd have got starched by the guys who were on the lower rung. So this is the way they're getting him back in. I don't like it, but, I see where they're going with it. But he just didn't. Cowboy didn't fight back at all. And that's what I was talking about earlier. The rule, they're very selective. Cowboy should be out. I mean, he's lost 3 in a row. As of yet, have you heard anything about him being cut or retiring or anything like that? Not at all. Not one bit. But yet other fighters, they lose 3 in a row, they're cut immediately. That's supposed to be their rule. But then we don't see that with Cowboy. So that's when you learn, okay, that's a selective thing. If you lose 3 in a row because you're doing the bidding of the UFC and you're helping their storylines out, well, then we'll bend that rule. Okay. But yeah, all in all, I wasn't that impressed with this card. It was rather boring. And I think it looked way better on paper than it did in execution. But, you never know. So I'm hoping that this week's Fight Night card will be one of those not so good on paper, but good in execution. We'll see. Fight Night 166 coming up this Saturday at the PNC Arena in Raleigh. Is that correct? Yeah. Let's see. Who all do we got on this card? The preliminary card. I got to be honest with you. I'm not real excited about this card. I do like there's a couple of women's fights, women's bantamweight fight and a women's flyweight fight on the card, on the prelim card. Some of these other fighters I'm not really familiar with. A lot of them are up-and-comers, so I'm only going to talk about the women's cards. Sarah McMahon versus Lena Landsberg. That should be a good fight. I'm taking Sarah McMahon on that one. And then in the flyweight division, Justine Kish versus Lucy Pudilova. Okay. That's going to be a good one. That's going to be a real good one. A good match. A real good matchup. Even matchup. Whew, tough on that one. I'm going to take Pudilova on that one. I'm going to take Pudilova on that one. I like her chances. I like her shot. Like she's looked good her last couple of fights. So, rest of the prelim card. Hey, I'm going to watch it either way. I like the fact that it starts early. You get to start your day off with some action. It goes into the night. Prelim card starts at like 4 p.m. on ESPN Plus. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then the main card starts at 7 p.m. On the main card, we've got Jamal Hill versus Darko Stosic. I'm putting my money on Stosic on that one. Well, women's strawweight, Hannah Cyphers, is that how you say her name? Versus Angela Hill. I haven't seen Angela Hill fight in a while. Angela Hill's actually one of the few. There really aren't that many. I'm trying to even think of another one on the top of my head. No disrespect to other ones, but Angela Hill might be the only black female fighter in the UFC. There may be other ones. She's the only one I even know of. But yeah, she's a killer too. That's gonna be a good one. I'm going with Hill. I'm going with Angela Hill on that one. I think she'll take it, but we'll see. Again, there's no shame in being wrong about this, because that's one of the great things about this sport is it can go either way any night. It's not like sports teams where you can clearly see, okay, this team's playing this team's a fucking monster team, this team over here, their record's not so great. I mean, even in sports you see upsets, but you just never know. It's so unpredictable, you never know where it's going to go. So I like Angela Hill in that one. Men's flyweight division, Jordan Espinoza versus Alex Perez. Another good fucking matchup. You've got Espinoza's 14-6, Alex Perez 22-5. I mean, they're pretty much evenly matched. Espinoza's got the reach advantage on him. I think that's going to be a battle. I think there's going to be blood. I think it's going to be a good one. I'm taking Perez on that one. Welterweight division, co-main event. Michael Chiesa versus Rafael Dos Anjos. I remember when he it was fucking hilarious when he fought Colby Covington. Colby Covington was calling Rafael Dos Nachos. That's fucking hilarious. I don't like that dude, but that was fucking funny. I gotta admit, Rafael Dos Nachos. That's fucking hilarious. So Dos Nachos versus Chiesa. I'm taking Michael Chiesa on this one. Listen, Rafael Dos Anjos is a murderer. He's a killer. But I think he's past his prime. And he'll probably prove me wrong and beat his ass, but, that's how it goes. I don't know. I just think he's past his prime. I really do. And then the main event, which is a heavyweight bout. And I've talked about the heavyweight bouts. mean, they're the closest to boxing, I think. You know, sometimes, depending on who the fighters are, not a lot of ground game. Sometimes they'll surprise you and there'll be some ground game in there. But Junior Dos Santos versus Curtis Blades. Man, that's, of course, there's a reason why that's the main event. That's the best fight of the card, no question. I like the last four, though. I do like the last four on the main card. The Hannah Cliffers versus Angela Hill, Jordan Espinoza, Alex Perez, Rafael Dos Nachos versus Michael Chissy, and Curtis Blades versus Junior Dos Santos. I like all four of those in the final events of the main card this weekend. I like all those fights. I think they're all going to be pretty good. Curtis Blades versus Junior Dos Santos, though, man, that's a fucking tough one. Because Dos Santos is a killer. 21-6 record. Curtis Blades, though, man, he's a real tough up-and-comer, and I like Blades' chances with this one, so I'm going to go with Curtis. Curtis Razor. Let me get it right. Curtis Razor Blades. And that wraps up my coverage for MMA Corner this week, and we'll see what happens. We'll talk about it next week after the fights take place. I'm looking forward to 247. Coming up in Houston next month. I wish I could go to that. Anybody out there has any way they could get me tickets, please let me know. I want to go and cover that. I'll do the 4-hour drive to Houston for that. All right, let's move on. I had mentioned earlier I was going to do something a little different this week. If you may or may not know, this is our Movie of the Week segment, by the way. Each week I'll pick a different movie. Might be an old one, might be a new one. You never know. But this time of year, generally from about a couple weeks before Christmas, around the middle of December, all the way till right until the Oscars, this is screener season. And what happens is all the major studios send out, even, we're talking about movies that are even, just out of the theater. They send screeners out to publications, to reviewers, critics, and this is how they build buzz for their movies for the Oscars. So this is a great time of year because all those end up getting leaked online, so you can actually watch some of these shitty movies and not have to pay, and then if you watch the Oscars or whatever, you see which ones you'll actually be able to know, because oftentimes when you watch the Oscars, you're like, what? Some of these fucking movies that they're like, nobody saw it. I can't believe how many times, I'm not even talking about somebody like me who watches a lot of movies. There have been multiple times where there'll be like some movie will win Best Picture. Like, what? Nobody fucking wouldn't watch that movie. What the fuck are y'all talking about? So screener season is a great way to get to, if you're into watching movies, it's a great way to get to see some of the films that in a million years you would never go pay to go see. So this week, instead of having a movie of the week, I've watched a few of these screener films, so I don't really have a whole lot to say about any one of them, because honestly, I really didn't like a lot of the movies that came out last year. I really didn't. I liked The Irishman. I talked about that. I liked that a lot. And then I'm trying to, well, what was the second best movie you saw last year? Big drop off. I can't even. I'm struggling to think. I liked Uncut Gems. I think I talked about that. Liked Uncut Gems. That was a good one. I didn't like. I don't know. I just didn't like. I didn't like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I thought it was crap. I just didn't dig it at all. So, in light of all these screeners coming out, I was like, well, watch a few of these. So I'll just mention a few that I watched. Terminator Dark Fate, watched that one. It was pretty good. I thought it was one of the better ones they've made of the more recent. Anything past the first two movies are pretty, well, there's a few in there that are okay, but this one I really liked. Thought it was good. Linda Hamilton returned in it. Arnold returned in it. I liked the way, I'm not going to ruin it for you, but I liked the twist they had with bringing him back in this, and he was really good in it. It was really good. It was definitely an entertaining movie. what else? The other Motherless Brooklyn. This is a movie that was written and directed and stars Ed Norton. Bruce Willis has got a small role in it. This was a good movie. You know, it didn't do all that great at the box office, but not because it was a bad movie. It's just it's not a new movie. It's an old movie. And I mean that in terms of the way it was made. I mean, it's a new movie. But this is how they used to make movies. They don't make movies like this anymore. The art of making movies like this has largely been left by the wayside. So it was done kind of in the style of how they used to make movies. And, it wasn't the best film I've ever seen, but it was pretty good. If you liked Ed Norton, what was that movie? Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. What was that movie that he made in the 90s? May have been his first movie. May have been, or one of his first. When he started starring roles. The one he did with Richard Gere. Primal Fear. That was it. Yeah, that was his first movie. Primal Fear. Yeah, it was his first movie. If you've never seen Primal Fear, first off, you should definitely go watch Primal Fear if you've never seen it. Because being that that's Ed Norton's first movie, he's just unbelievable in it. And I don't want to ruin it for you, but there's a twist in there. He's great in that. But his performance in Motherless Brooklyn was kind of, to me, kind of a call back to that. He plays a guy with like Tourette's. So it's pretty funny, but no, it was actually a pretty good movie. He had a good cast. He wrote it and directed it. So again, maybe not one I would have went to the theater to go see, but it was a really good movie, and I suggest it. And then the one I watched last night. Holy shit! This was fucking crazy. This is out on screeners right now. Color Out of Space. And this is based upon a short story by H.P. Lovecraft. So if you're into the Lovecraft stuff, you're into, aliens and horror, sci-fi, fantasy. And this is not for the meek, though. I got to say, if you're easily freaked out, I wouldn't suggest watching this movie. It's pretty weird, fucked up sci-fi horror, which stars Nicolas Cage, by the way. What the fuck? I can't believe I watched a fucking movie in 2020 with Nicolas Cage in it, and it was actually not crap. You forget that sometimes. You forget that some of these, some of these guys do shitty, so many shitty movies you forget, and you're shocked when you see them in a good one. Going back to Motherless Brooklyn, Alec Baldwin is in that. Alec Baldwin, he's known so much more nowadays for his antics and his bizarre, crazy, out there shit, and playing Trump on Saturday Night Live and all that, and being, left a liberal, mouthpiece or whatever, that you forget. Oh, this guy actually, he's actually a great fucking actor sometimes, and that's what I got from Alec Baldwin in fucking Motherless Brooklyn. His part wasn't huge, but it was important to the story, and the parts he was in it, he was mega. You're like, God damn, you forget. Same thing with Nicolas Cage. I don't necessarily think that Nicolas Cage is a bad actor. He's been in some bad shit because he needed the money, but every now and again he's in a movie where you're like, all right, that's not bad. And this was a crazy. I mean, if you like fucking weird, interdimensional alien fucking Lovecraft horror, it's definitely got a horror element to it. It's very if you're sensitive to horror movies, I wouldn't watch this one. But here's a little write-up on it. Nicolas Cage's trippy new movie, Color Out of Space, is actually pretty great. An adaptation of an H.P. Lovecraft short story that pairs Nicolas Cage and director Richard Stanley helming its first fiction feature since being unceremoniously fired from 1996's Notorious, The Island of Dr. Moreau. Color Out of Space is something like a match made in genre cinema heaven, and while this multi-hued sci-fi extravaganza falls short of being an instant cult classic, it's a trippy and grotesque vision of the real and unreal colliding in the New England wilderness, energized by memorably out there effects and its reliably ragey leading man. Co-written with Scarlett Amaris, Stanley's film, which is in theaters January 24th. Oh, wow. Yeah, so that screener is actually predating the movie even coming out. It hadn't even coming out. Yeah, so I'm giving you the real exclusive here. Damn. Giving you my review, telling you about a movie before it even is out in theaters. Retains Lovecraft's fundamental narrative building blocks even as it shifts the tale's setting to the present day and expands its drama. A hydrologist named Ward arrives in the town of Arkham to survey the water and stumbles upon the Gardner family, beginning with teen daughter Lavina. I'm not going to go any further than that because it goes into the plot. I just want you to watch it. But yeah, if you're into the fucking Necronomicon, demon conjuring, H.P. Lovecraft, alien fucking mythos, horror, sci-fi shit, and you don't mind, being a little weirded out and tripped out, this is one for you. Color Out of Space. See it. And that's my pick of the week. It's my movies of the week there for you. Comedy this week. I got to be honest with you, I didn't watch any. I really didn't see any comedy this week. Didn't see any other than the usual stuff I watch online, podcasts and stuff like that. I didn't watch any stand-up specials. There's not really any good stand-up specials out right now that I haven't seen. But I do like to give you live reviews on stuff when I go and see comedy or go to concerts and stuff. And again, if you support our work and contribute to our fundraiser, this will allow me to be able to do more of that and bring you more back from the field. But just to condense that kind of into one category this week, last Friday I saw somebody I've wanted to see for many years live. I don't know really what you clarified this guy as. I just consider him a musician, but some people consider him a musician as well. He's also a voice actor. He's best known for doing the voice of Early Kyler in the show Squidbillies, Stuart Baker, a.k.a. Unknown Henson. I've been a fan of Unknowns now for about, 15, 16 years. Yeah, 2003, 2004, somewhere in there. And he's just great. I mean, if you don't know his shtick, he's a vampire. He's supposedly a vampire that's written all these songs, wrote songs for the Beatles and all this stuff anyway. And he's got a mythos to him, and he's got these hilarious songs like Your Man Is Gay and I Ain't Afraid of Your Husband and all these fucking hilarious songs with hilarious titles. And he always goes on about, he calls all his songs chart toppers. He goes on about warmers and party liquors, and it's hilarious stuff. If you've never heard his album, The Future Is Unknown, that's the one to get. It's just hilarious songs. I cleaned out a room in my trailer for you. He's got a song called Polyurethane that's a love song about a fucking blow up sex doll. Oh, fucking A. But I got to say, aside from the humorous vampire shit, all his songs have to do with his mythos. Every one of his songs has to do with, him being a vampire and being in the circus sideshow when he was a kid and all this stuff. But, and of course, like I said, if you've ever seen Squidbillies on Adult Swim, he's the main character in that, Early Kyler. And his voice is the same. He's not putting on a voice for that cartoon. His voice of Early Kyler in that cartoon is really how he talks. That's really how that guy talks. No question. It's not an act. He talks like that. I got to meet him and stuff. Got to get a picture taken with him. It was great. But aside from all that, the guy is a monster musician. In fact, if you listen to his records, like The Future is Unknown, he plays all the instruments on that, writes all the songs, plays all the instruments, drums, keyboards, guitar, everything. And the guy is a phenomenal guitar player. Put it to you like this, Hank III, Hank Williams Jr.'s son, Hank Williams Sr.'s grandson, has a fucking full, like, sleeve portrait of Unknown Hinson on his arm, okay? He's got big name people that like him, but he's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal guitar player. What a fucking shredder. Absolutely unbelievable. Funny at the same time. So if you ever get a chance to see Unknown Hinson, check him out because his music's great. He puts on a hell of a great live show. You'll laugh. You'll sing. It's great. It really is. The guy's got some fucking hilarious songs. I Ain't Afraid of Your Husband. That's just fucking funny. So many great songs. And, great music too. So Unknown Hinson is my combo comedy and live music pick for the week. And that brings us to our final selection for the week, album of the week. Again, each week I will randomly select one vinyl record from my personal collection to feature here on the show. And this week's selection is Devo, Now It Can Be Told, live. One of my favorite records of all time. I first got this record on CD back about mid-90s, about 94, 95. I got it in like a used record store. I'd never seen it before. I'd been a Devo fan and stuff as a teenager and had the first couple of records and had, New Traditionalists and had the first Are We Not Men album and several, always a Devo fan. But when I got this one, first time I've never seen it, I'd never heard it before, and I got it on CD. And I used to put it on at parties and stuff, and man, people would lose their fucking minds on this record. Because they'd always be like, who is this? Who is this? Like, you kind of know who it is, but they kind of wouldn't. And what's interesting about it is the first few songs, Devo is very, synth heavy and electronic drums and all that, but this was kind of right about the time the Unplugged thing started to happen. And this was recorded in 1988. It was released in 1989. It's a live record. It's called Devo, Now It Can Be Told, Devo at the Palace. Recorded during their 1988 comeback tour and promotion of the Total Devo album. And the first part of the show is a semi-acoustic set in which the band plays heavily altered versions of their early hits. But yeah, it's great. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And then it gets into the rock and stuff, and then it gets into the synthesizer stuff. The drum sound on this album is phenomenal. It's huge. The drummer who's no longer with us, they called that guy the human drum machine for a reason. Track listing, Jocko Homo, acoustic version, It Doesn't Matter to Me, great song. Going Under, Working in a Coal Mine. Happy Guy, that's good. Jerking Back and Forth, Girl You Want, Whip It, Baby Doll, Can't Get No Satisfaction, Uncontrollable Urge, great song. Gut Feeling, and then Gates of Steel. Probably, gosh, gun to my head, definitely top two, maybe number one. One of my favorite, probably my favorite Devo song there is, Gates of Steel. Fucking love Gates of Steel. Love that song. I'm a huge Devo fan, but this record is great. If you're kind of a casual Devo fan and you don't have time to go back and dig through their catalog to find out which ones are good, which ones are stinkers, because like I've said before, every band has stinkers. This is a great collection if you kind of a casual Devo fan, want to listen to more Devo, but don't have the time and the energy to go through and dig through all their albums and get the best songs. This is kind of like a live greatest hits. And I got to tell you, I can't tell you how many times I turn people on this record, just throwing it on at a party or a get together. 3 or 4 songs in. What is this? What is this? What is this? I like this. What is this? It's got a great sound to it, great vibe to it as far as live albums, and I've just never heard anything else they've ever done that sounds like this record. It really has a unique sound. It's very much of the time. And, this is better than... I actually think this record is better Hardcore Devo fans not going to like this. I think this record, to me personally, it's better than the majority of their live records. I mean, of their studio records. To me, there's only 2 or 3 maybe, I think really 2 listen, I love Devo, I'm a big fan, but their records were real spotty and real hit or miss. There's not very many that are great front to back, maybe 2 or 3. But this one is great front to back, especially if you like Devo, especially if you want to hear them in kind of a different way and a different sound, but with the same stuff you expect to hear. It's really phenomenal. It's a great fucking record. I actually found this a couple of years ago on vinyl. I'd had it for years on CD, could never find it on vinyl, and I found a original pressing vinyl, still sealed in the plastic. It was only $13. $13. It's rather difficult to find on vinyl. They may have reissued it. The original one that I have, actually the 4-side of the vinyl doesn't have anything on it. So they etched their names and did drawings and stuff in it for all the Devo members. It's really awesome. But Devo, now it can be told. Devo at the Palace. Get it. It's a great one, man. It really is. It really is a good one. It's a good party record. It's a good background record. It's just a good record all around. Devo, now it can be told. Live at the Palace. That is my record of the week selection, and that brings us to the end of episode number 4 of the Whatever Whenever podcast. I want to thank everybody out there yet again for tuning in and being with me in this new endeavor, in this new show. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really liking getting to talk about all the other things I'm passionate about, other things I'm into, and not have to be silent about them all the time. I love that. I'm into it. I love you guys so much. So please hit up our fundraiser and support us so we can get a new intro, get some stuff going in here, and really get this show kicked off in a big way. Nothing is possible without you. We'll see you next time, folks. Take care.